Croeso to Wrexham News, and we're on a pretty good mood because we're going to be talking about the Caerphilly by-election, which happened on Thursday, and it was a very good day for Plaid Cymru, I think it's fair to say.
Felt like it.
Pretty stonking win, 4,000 majority. Probably
unexpected. Is that fair to say?
I think the size of the win, you know, after campaigning down there, the three of us went down there for a couple of days to help out with the campaign. So we knew it was going well. There was a good vibe.
Yeah.
But to see almost 4,000 majority, that's a game changer, isn't it?
What struck me, because we were down for 48 hours, so you got a flavour of what was going on. And what struck me was the amount of people saying, never again with Labour. I didn't get one person saying Labour. There were people saying Reform, and there were a lot of people saying Plaid, and they were long-time Plaid voters, a lot of them.
Yeah.
And then there were the others who were coming over because it was a journey for some people. And that was really interesting. I had some really interesting conversations. People who were scared of Reform. Yeah. Really, you know, next door neighbour had a poster of Reform, and they were kind of, you know, I'm really worried about this, you know. And
there's quite a bit of that, actually, wasn't there?
Yeah. But you did get that feeling. This is a two-horse race. It's between the two of us. It felt tight.
Yeah.
In the end, it wasn't, and I'd love to know what caused that swing in the end.
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the factors, because when we landed down there, myself and Kayleigh went to do a bit of filming with Lindsay, and I think Lindsay himself is probably a big factor because he's just so plugged in. That's the first thing that hit us, I think, when we landed to do some filming. Everybody knows Lindsay. He's been working down there for, I think he said himself, 50 years.
50 years, yeah.
So he's been plugged in, and it just goes to show that work day in, day out within your own community makes a massive difference as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it struck me as well, it's not just Lindsay, there's a team of Plaid Cymru councillors there who know their patches, they know their people, and, you know, you could count on them. There was that sense of they're not blow-ins, they're not, you know, fly-by-nights, and there was that definite sense that, oh, the Farage circus has arrived in town for the day. Yeah. And as we know, it left the day after, didn't it?
Well, yeah, literally. Yeah, I think, did they have their victory party in the end?
Yeah. They were still selling tickets.
They were still selling tickets for the victory party. I mean, just the entitlement that screams in itself is a whole podcast, isn't it? You know, but...
Should we do a whole podcast on it?
On Reform's entitlement in Caerphilly, yeah. I could do a good half an hour on that, I think, quite happily.
Yeah. And it was that Farage circus, though, wasn't it? And the fact that he was there on the day, you know, obviously expecting to be the big I am on the night where the count happened, and that when things weren't going so well, he buggered off, you know, and that says an awful lot, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I think, you know, one thing that struck me as well in terms of the campaign was how well organised it was from Plaid Cymru perspective. Yeah. You know, there were the amount of different canvas teams out, the amount of people in and out the office. It was busy. There was a really good feeling in that office as well. People were upbeat. They were just enjoying themselves at that point. We were there for the last stretch of the campaign, to be fair. You know, they'd been going at it for weeks and weeks. So that was one thing, definitely, the organisation.
It did feel organised. I mean, we're going through this process of getting a new canvassing system, and all that sort of thing seems to be coming together. You couldn't have wished for a better trial of that whole thing. And again, you know, praise to the local canvassing team, but also the whole Plaid team who were there, you know, Garrick Day and people like that really worked their socks off, I thought, you know.
Yeah, they did. You know, they earned that result, to be fair. They did work hard.
And
well, morale helped because, like, I mean, we've seen it now with, like, the voter turnout numbers, but, like, the amount of people actually engaging with it, not just, like, behind the scenes, but, like, even people who didn't want to vote in the end still knew what was going on. And, like, for a by-election, that's just, like, unheard of.
Yeah, and a big part of that was social media, because I think the message in terms that the Plaid got across on social media was done to an extent and in a way that hasn't happened before in a campaign that I've seen. Lots of people wanted to help online, didn't they? And I know you did a lot of work there in terms of pulling people on board and trying to get a message out.
Yeah, but we were there for the final push. There was a lot going on before we got down there. But I mean, I put a call out on my Instagram story and suddenly we had somebody with like 1 million followers like drive up to come help out. Like it's nice to have this little like network of my content creator friends that I can like plug into, who are all very pro Plaid. And willing to help out.
That's significant in its own right, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got people like all over the country who are just trying to do their bit, and it's great because it takes the pressure off me a little bit.
I think what's nice about it as well, because you're talking about Dean with the massive TikTok following, but Dean's really down to earth. He's from a working class community. Originally, I think he said Llanelli, now Cardiff, wanted to come and help because can see the trajectory in terms of Welsh politics and that polarisation, and that it's either sort of that march towards fascism, I think is the way he described it, or a much more progressive option with Plaid Cymru. So people are really motivated across different age groups to come out and campaign. So you had a lot of younger people on social media, a lot of your grassroots campaigners in Caerphilly who were, tramping the streets, knocking the doors, doing all we had the whole range, I think, in terms of the campaign that just seemed to all come together as well.
Dean's not even a political content creator. He talks about like film and stuff. So to have him come on board was like, it worked really, really well. I'm still getting people like positively interacting with the videos that we put out. But then we've also got like, I mean, Ivank was huge in helping out. They had entire days where they were just organising and out all in one group, and people came from all over to help with that. There was a bunch of people from the Northwest who went down.
Yeah, fantastic.
Really good.
Do we need to explain who Ivank is?
Plaid Ivank is the like under 30s and under, so it's the young people.
So young.
I'm glad you pointed that at Marc and not me. I'll buy you a pint next time.
Yeah, so we are probably like the largest section of the party, just purely because it's automatic membership. The other sections you can join or you can not join. But Ivank is, if you sign up to the party and you're under the age of 30, then you're one of us.
Yeah, and you notice on the door there was a generational split.
Yeah,
I felt Reform voters tended to be older, Plaid voters tended to be younger, and I think more women as well. That was my impression. And I like I say, maybe there won't be a breakdown of how the thing went in terms of the vote, but that was my distinct impression. And the national polls tend to bear that out as well, don't they? So, the overwhelming support for Plaid, for independence, is coming from younger people. And maybe they turned out.
Do you know what? And I think that's the point I wanted to pick up on, because I think the reaction afterwards to the result was really telling. And I think it shows how the British establishment, or the England establishment, London-based media, Westminster-based parties, how they just don't get Wales.
No.
They're completely at a loss in terms of how this has happened. And what you've just said in terms of identity, I think, is important, because the data bears this out as well. We've seen that over the last few years, increasingly more and more people are identifying with being Welsh only. So that's a growing group, and those groups lean more towards Plaid Cymru, more towards independence. And it's really interesting to think about the reaction that those groups are going to have to some of the reaction from the UK media to this result. So there's a couple of clips I want to play, because I think it just sums it up perfectly, how they don't get Wales, and they don't get that this isn't just political. There's a real social change happening. People are shifting in terms of their identity, and they view everything through such an England-centric lens that they just don't get it, do they? And this sort of typifies that. So the first clip is from an interview with Lindsay, literally just after the results declared at the count.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And
the media scrum.
It's just so telling, this.
We've grabbed you as the winner of this, but actually the rest of this room's media is going to the person who's come second, Llyr Powell from Reform. What do you think that tells us?
I simply don't know.
He's just won with a stonking majority, and the press crowd around.
Nobody wants to talk to him.
Yeah. I mean, if you're in that group of people who increasingly identify as being Welsh, want to talk about Wales, want to see things through a Welsh lens, and you see that, you're going to be pissed off, quite justifiably pissed off. And it just typifies just the whole attitude, like I say, from those London-based parties in particular, but also the London media to what's happening in Wales. And there's another clip as well. There was a fella from Caerphilly who just perfectly sums up his response to reform and the campaign that they've run as well. So just play that as well.
You just got to look at what Nigel Farage is saying. You know, he's just, his rhetoric he's using is just stop the boats. And everyone seems to think that if the boats stop, then everything's going to be right. But it's far more than the boats, isn't it? You know, so yeah, just got to look back at Brexit, because he was, you know, he was behind that. I blame him for that, really. EU migration's gone down, non-EU migration's gone up, and he's just peddling the same old story again, isn't he? I don't think Reform got any interest in what goes on around here. They're just a load of multi-millionaires from England. They're shipping them all in, walking around with their suits on. I don't think they care about the community, but I know they don't.
Sums it up, doesn't it?
It really, really does. I mean, so you can talk about political failures in terms of the Labour Party, and there's many in terms of just not addressing the things that matter to people, seem to be failing in terms of managing the NHS, not delivering in terms of cost of living. You know, all of those things are important and play in, of course they do. But just their complete failure across the board, London-based parties, to understand Wales. And there's a reaction to that. There really is. And that's what I think we saw on the ground in Caerphilly. So in terms of what made the difference, Lindsay, a massive part of it.
Yeah.
That shift in terms of people's perspective and wanting to see things through a Welsh lens, the failure of the other parties to address the things that matter to people on the ground, but just this failure to appreciate Wales and this continuing attitude of just ignoring us.
Mm. And it feels very raw now, doesn't it? Because, you know, Labour have always tried to play the, oh, look, we're very Welsh and all this kind of thing. And we're, you know, somewhere in the middle. And they and the Tories got swept away in this election. You know, 2%, 12%, whatever it was. And virtually everybody else voted either for reform, which was basically saying, we don't give a stuff about Wales.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. Or for Plaid, a positive alternative. And that's a very stark binary choice now, isn't it?
Completely polarised.
That's where we're going. We've got 6 months now to lay it on the line. You've got a very stark binary choice. Either you're voting for essentially saying good night Wales, or you're saying we've got a future Wales.
Well, I mean, in terms of Welsh democracy, Reform have literally got key people saying that they will happily entertain abolishing the Senedd. You know, by saying that, what you were saying is Wales does not deserve a democratic voice.
Yeah.
And they're happy to put us back under London's boot. I just find that astounding that in the context of this, when you actually look at what's happening in Wales, that they think that that's a clever message, because it really isn't.
I find it really interesting how they've been campaigning, because like when me and you were out filming and trying to like interview people, everyone who was saying they were voting Plaid could name Lindsay. They knew what he did in Unity. They were very plugged in to everything that was going on in their area. But when we asked about Reform voters, they all said they were voting for Farage, who wasn't standing.
Yeah.
They couldn't name Welsh Dave, because even the party don't call him by his name.
Yeah.
There was no promotion of him as a candidate or who he was in the community, what he could do for them. And I'm actually really glad that they went down that route, because it helped.
Yeah, just that, again, that failure to understand Wales, failure to think you've got to have a Welsh leader, that you've got to have credible Welsh policies, and to think, well, that Farage is going to turn up and universally people are going to go, oh, fantastic.
I was going to say, can we talk about that for a Welsh leader or not?
Well, Nathan Gill, yeah, that's a whole other story.
Right.
Yes, I mean, I suppose it is.
That's why they haven't got a Welsh leader, yeah, because he's gone to jail. Went to jail.
It is worth talking about these things, because these are dynamics that also played into the campaign, because there was also the debate, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And there was some key moments in that. There was the story that broke with Nathan Gill. How many, was it charges of 8 altogether in terms of bribery? Yeah.
And he's facing jail.
Yeah, being bribed by Russia. So that certainly did play. And the other big moment was the Welsh mam.
Yeah.
In the audience, in the Alison and her son Cole, wasn't it? And they really put Cllr on the spot Reform's candidate, didn't they? And his facial expression really said it all. He had no answer, did he? You know, she was concerned as a mum about her mixed race son going out in Caerphilly because of the rhetoric from Reform in their campaign.
Yeah, and it really hit home, didn't it? It was
It
a very
did.
personal. I don't think the debate worked as a debate, but that really cut through because it was a genuine voice, like the guy who just summed up Farage and the sharp suits turning up from London. You know, that's what people feel, and this is what communities across Wales are feeling. You know, what struck me about Caerphilly is it's just like Wrexham. You know, it's got a big castle. It's quite different in that
We want a
respect.
castle. Should we build one?
We'd love a castle, but it's like Wrexham with a castle. It's got a big market town in the centre of it. It's got lots of post-industrial villages around it, and they're struggling. People are struggling. They feel ignored, isolated, all this sort of thing. And I think they turned to Lindsay because they knew they'd have a voice from the community rather than somebody who was going to use it for something completely different.
Yeah.
And it struck me, there was one lady's comments that struck me that, you know, there's no pride in the place, you know, and that struck me in Wrexham. We have felt that. Perhaps things are changing in Wrexham, but lots of these communities feel, you know, there's no pride in the place because things have gone to the dogs. Nobody's listening to us. Nobody's listening to our concerns. And you just know when your candidate, our candidate, is going into schools to help people to learn to read, you know, in his own time. You know, he's got 4 voluntary jobs, you know, as well as being a counsellor. You just know this guy is going to be there for you all the time. And I think that's the model we have to say. You know, we're not, you've got this choice again, you know, a Lindsay Whittle versus a Nathan Gill, who's making his money, you know, Farage making his £1 million from 12 different jobs, as well as being the MP for Clacton, allegedly.
When he's there, yeah.
That's the difference, you know. And what would you rather have?
Yeah. That grassroots connection, I think, is going to be key for 2026, you know, where Plaid is plugged in and working. If Reform think that they can just walk in, swoop in and, you know, steal a march, I think they're going to find it a lot more difficult than they think, even though they've got all of this money, even though they've got UK airwaves, they haven't got the grassroots.
No.
And I don't think they've got the organisation, if I'm honest, either, which is going to make a big difference.
Yeah, who are their candidates? We've got all ours.
Exactly.
Where are they?
Exactly.
Well, we started campaigning the Monday after the general election.
Yeah.
Where's Reform?
We don't stop campaigning.
No.
That's the difference.
Well, we did take a long weekend.
Weekends allowed, yeah.
And it was interesting this weekend, which we didn't have a weekend of. We were out on the street, and it was so encouraging to have people of all ages coming up and saying, "Well done in Caerphilly." You know, that felt like a cut-through moment.
I probably bet that the campaign team in Caerphilly don't appreciate how significant this win is. I mean, for people in Wrexham to be coming up to us, wanting to take a newspaper, you did really well, but genuinely really pleased to see it as well. Yeah. And that's come across online, it's come across in person. And if it's happening in Wrexham, it's happening everywhere else in Wales. And I think that in itself will change the tone of the next 6 months and the whole campaign. I think there's definitely just so much momentum with Plaid because of what they've delivered in Caerphilly. So, you know, kudos to them there. It's made such an impact, hasn't it?
But, like, even outside of Wales, I've had people from, like, Scotland and England thanking us for winning in Caerphilly, and I'm like, I barely did a thing, but you're welcome.
Well, yeah, people across the board. I've seen Humza Yousaf, former First Minister of Scotland, talking about the Plaid campaign, and this is how we go about defeating the far right. It's being picked up on across the board, isn't it?
Yeah, and there has been a little bit of a narrative, that you can't stop them. You know, they're going to bulldoze through everything, and they are the anti-establishment alternative. And we know that's a load of rubbish.
No, they're exactly the establishment.
They are the establishment. You know, they've just put on different clothes to try and fool us, you know. And when you've got our former Tory MP calling herself the new kid on the block.
Oh, Sarah Atherton.
Yeah, I think that's her name, is it? Yeah.
I think that's her name, yeah. And they are packed full of ex-Tories as well. And I think more people are, this is dawning on them. I've seen people who are thinking of voting Reform in Wrexham see the people who are jumping to Reform, like Sarah Atherton, and saying, well, I'm not going to go out and vote for them then. But, this is what we're going to see is those Tories who can see what's happening to the Tory vote, which was decimated.
2%.
2%, yeah. And they're seeing the writing on the wall and they're jumping ship. I think what's interesting as well, the last 3 YouGov polls have, pointed to this pattern that's happening. It's put Plaid ahead, Reform in second, and Labour over the last 3 just absolutely that vote collapsing. But I'm not even sure people in Labour believed that it was actually happening until Caerphilly.
Well, no, but even in Caerphilly, because they had that truck driving around with them in second.
Oh, they did? Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
A fake poll, and if you vote Plaid, then you're letting Reform in, and it's like, how did that work out for you?
Yeah, exactly.
And they've been playing that card forever. It was vote Plaid, get Tory. And now they're trying the vote Plaid, get Reform. We know it's not working anymore. Yeah.
No. And I think, having those polls is one thing, but seeing that bear out in reality has been a real wake-up call, I think, for some of the other parties. And it shows that, without a doubt, that the Senedd election in May is a 2-horse race. It's between Plaid Cymru and Reform, so pick your team. Yeah. And hopefully people back Team Wales. That's what you'll obviously be encouraging people to do.
I know it's in all of the polls and everything we were thinking. I think everybody was thinking in the run up to the election was going to be maybe a recount, maybe several recounts. It was going to be so tight. So to have such a big gap between us, I mean, we can't take that for granted. But also, I think hopefully it makes people realize just like how much is at stake. And how if we actually got the left to come together, back Plaid because you believe in Plaid, and not just because you don't like Reform.
Oh yeah, and it was a positive. I think it was a positive vote, wasn't it? It wasn't just anybody but Reform. They were saying this is the alternative to Reform, and I like that. It's
the practicalities, though, isn't it? I think people know, realistically, what you're looking at, or what you're going to be looking at in May as well, is who is going to form the next government. Do they know what they're doing? Have they got a plan in terms of health? Have they got a plan in terms of the economy? People want to know that there's credibility there, and you've got people who are going to hit the ground running and start to make things better because everything's gone to shit. That's where we are. And Reform can't tell people that they can make a difference. They're talking about reopening the pits. They're talking about abolishing the Senedd. There's nothing not credible.
Well, the track record of running councils in England so far has been spectacular, isn't it? The whole Doge thing, which sounded so attractive, and they haven't saved a penny. They've wasted money on by-elections so far.
No, well, they've got into control councils, and they've found out that there's no money, and they're putting up council tax. You couldn't write it, could you? So, I think the credibility is important. People want people in their running their government who know what they're doing. I think they know that Plaid can deliver on the ground and in government. That's important, and also that it's not just rhetoric, because that's all Reform have got, isn't it? Is slogans.
Three-word slogans and scaremongering.
It's not going to fix anything, is it? I think people get that. I mean, I think that we've all been concerned that there's so much money goes into the air war, and people get hammered with this messaging constantly that no doubt is effective and does cut through. But I think, again, what Caerphilly shows is that actually people are smarter than that. People do get it. They get there's more to this. They get the things that are wrong are, the fact that they can't afford a house, that they can't afford bills, that, they need practical solutions as well. And Reform just aren't, they're not up to it, are they?
No.
And neither are Labour. And there's a really, really good point to end the conversation on, probably, isn't it?
Can we put in the photo of Lindsay outside the Senedd? Because that genuinely made my entire month, probably the rest of my year. Because I think you see a lot of politicians get elected and they're just like, okay, here's my paycheck. But he genuinely looks like a little kid.
It's Christmas.
Like that kind of excitement.
Yeah.
Because he's been working so hard.
He's earned it. It's just...
And
that is the image, isn't it? I think this campaign has been defined by actually video and imagery. And to have that image of him, on the steps of the Senedd with Fflint is just, it's hopeful. It is.
Yeah, it's a cliche, but hope beat hate.
It did.
And that's really important.
And obviously we hope that that's what's going to happen in May as well.